These were written based on true stories from our fans and also some references online. We hope that you will enjoy listening to these 3 Bloody Mary stories. A friend of mine, let's call her Annabelle, she was so into the dark and scary things when she was around 15. She loves stories of the occult and participating in activities or scary ritual games in the dark. There was this one day that she heard a story of Bloody Mary, which could be summoned by chanting her name into a mirror in a dark room lit only by a candle. So on one night, she decided to reenact the Bloody Mary legend to satisfy her craving for excitement. She started with a lit candle and having the lights turn out in her bedroom. Then she holds a mirror and she chanted Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody. She stopped midway, as she started to see her reflection distorted and covered with blood. She screamed and yelled, calling out for her mom. She told her family everything that had happened. Soon enough, she was seeing a bloodied woman walking around in the house, which most of the time appears in the mirrors of the house. In some other time, she would hear a woman's voice calling out for her name and also hearing indistinct whispering in her room. She stopped going to school and had no appetite of eating anything. She became very thin and weak. For months, she would lie in her bed without speaking, like a dead person. Then, she would sit for whole days on the floor, huddled up, with her knees against her face. There are times where she would stare into the mirror talking to herself. Soon after that, the whole family moved away, and I've never saw her again. Hopefully she is all better now. I want to share with you guys this story that happened to me when I was around the age of 13 and had a plan to sleep over at my friend Brian's place. We had 2 other friends, Jennifer, who lives next door, and Olivia, Jennifer's best friend, which will sleep over at Jennifer's place that night. On that day, we were hanging out at Brian's place. Well, to start off with this, I need to let you guys know that Brian had a crush on Jennifer, so he tends to act tough whenever she's around. I still remember that it was around 7 p.m. We were playing some board games at first in the basement. Well, the basement in Brian's house was technically his room. Because he has 4 siblings, so being the eldest one, he would let his little brothers and sisters have their own proper bedroom. Soon enough, we were all bored and starting telling ghost stories to spice things up a little. There were a few long horror stories told by each of us, but somehow, somewhere, Brian thought of playing the Bloody Mary game. All 4 of us, we turned out the lights and lit up 1 candles each and walked into the bathroom. Brian started the first Bloody Mary, and then we all followed up with Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. After chanting the name, we stared at the mirror in the bathroom, and we waited for a minute. There was nothing, and we joke it off and said that it was just myth, and we were proud to say that we tried it while so many people wouldn't even dare to try it. It was great, because after the game, we had snacks and we played some truth or dare. It was a great night. When it came to around 11 p.m., it was time for us to go home. Jennifer needed to go to the bathroom. It was about 5 minutes in. We heard a blood-curdling scream from inside. We rushed to the door and we banged the door open to see Jennifer crying on the floor in a fetal position, and kept saying, "I saw her, I saw her." She was too frightened to even walk back home, so we all stayed at Brian's place that night. The next day, we asked her what had happened. She says that all she remembered was that she was washing her face, and her reflection in the mirror turned bloody in a second and it extended its arms to reach her neck and strangled her. She never went to school and rested for almost a month. We went to her house every day to check up on her, especially Brian, who shows up every day after school to take care of her. Thank God, she's okay after that. When I was about 10 years old, I went to a friend's for a sleepover. There were about 8 other girls that night. We were telling ghost stories at the time, and one of the girls told a story about Mary Worth. Mary Worth lived a long time ago. She was a beautiful young girl. But one day, she had an accident that left her face so disfigured that people would feel disgusted whenever they see her face, and she was isolated by all her friends. She wasn't allowed to have a mirror with her, for fear that she would lose her mind. One night, unable to fight the curiosity any longer, she sneaked into the bathroom, which has a mirror. As soon as she saw her face, she broke down into terrible screams and cries. Wanting her old face back, she broke the mirror into pieces and slits her wrist, vowing to disfigure anyone that feels disgusted at her face. After hearing the story, which was told very scarily, we decided to turn off all the lights and try it. We huddled at the mirror in the bathroom, repeating the name Mary Worth. Mary Worth. Mary Worth. About the fifth time we said it, one of the girls in front of the mirror started screaming and pushing her way back away from the mirror, running out of the bathroom. We all quickly followed, running out the bathroom, and turned on the lights, and found her covering in the corner crying. We turned her around to see these long fingernail scratches running down her left cheek. We will never forget what had happened that night as long as we lived.